Okay, hey everyone, this is Martin from howtomakemobilegames.com on July the, I want to say 25th? I can't remember, honestly. July 25th maybe? Whatever day it is, you'll know in the video. 2016, it's a Sunday here in Shanghai, China. Just taking a walk downstairs, and I wanted to do a quick video to talk about a topic which I feel is very interesting, very important, and something which I kind of learned about recently. So hopefully you can hear me okay, by the way. I'll turn the camera around in a moment. I'm using this mic. I tested it before. It sounded a little bit unclear, but just to let you know, this video is nothing to do with game development, nothing to do with revenue through games or anything like that. So if you're not interested in the subject matter, which is money as debt, then switch off or take a look at one of the other videos in the channel to do with game development. So just FYI, it's nothing to do with games. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is the idea or the reality that money is debt. So I've been, over the past few months, maybe even the past year, I'm going to turn this around now and you guys can see, I've been watching documentaries, mainly on YouTube, and listening to opinions of economists and people talking about it. And it came to me from the question, what is money? I'd never asked myself this before, like, what is money? As a kid growing up, I just thought money was, just this piece of paper that you use to give to somebody else, and then you can buy your sweets, your candy with it. Also, the question of what is a bank. We were never taught that in school. We were never explained clearly. And I don't think I ever asked the question when I was a kid, actually. It was only recently I asked the question to myself, what is a bank? But, when I was a kid, I thought a bank was just a place where you kept your money safe, and that was it. That's all I thought it was, okay? So, after looking into this more, and over the past kind of year or so, just watching general documentaries, the most interesting thing about what I've learned, or at least what these documentaries have told me, what these economists have said, guys like Bill Still, for example, and documentaries like The Four Horsemen, is that money is debt. Money is just debt. It's the craziest thing in the world, like when it kind of got explained to me. But so the way that money works now, okay, since the 20th and the 21st century, from what I understand, is that whenever money is created, it automatically has interest already on it. What that means is if the bank creates £100 or $100, okay, and then gives it to the government to circulate into the public system, it already has interest on it, okay? That's the craziest thing in the world if you think about it, because what that means is that every single penny in existence, whether it's digital or paper or whatever, is debt. Every money is debt. That's all it is. Now, it didn't always used to be that way, but now it is. Every single penny in existence is debt. Okay? If you think about it in this way, like, okay, so what's the problem? Money is debt. If money is debt, that means that whenever money is brought into existence, whether it's printed or created digitally as a loan, it means that we always own the banks more than what is in actual existence. Okay, so for example, I'll turn around for a moment. Let's say a bank gives, there's no money in existence, okay, and the bank is about to give out the first $100 into existence, okay. Somebody goes to the bank and says, hey, can you give me this $100 thing? And the bank says, sure, okay, I'll give you $100. Here's the first $100 in existence, but you have to pay it back with interest at 10%. So you have to give me the principal, which is $100, plus an extra 10%, so $110 is what you owe me. Now here's the problem. If there's only $100 in existence, then where does the other $10 come from? That's the major fucking problem here. That's the major problem. When a bank creates money, and banks create money whenever a loan is given out, like these are the central world banks of the country, like the Bank of England or the Fed. whenever they give a loan out to the government, like say, you know, $1 billion or whatever, they do not create the interest to pay back that $1 billion. They only give the $1 billion. And they say, hey, you got to give me back 10% later. So, okay, you give me $1 billion. Where the fuck am I supposed to get my extra 10%, my $1,100,000,000 or whatever it is? That's the problem, because it's that 10% interest. Got people staring at me now. They're all staring at me. I just feel a little bit embarrassed coming down here doing this, but whatever. I thought it would have been commonplace now to see this kind of thing. But so yeah, the banks create this $1 billion, and the interest doesn't get created at the same time. That has to get paid back. So what the problem? The way that you fix that with the $100 example. Let's take the $100, okay? With the $100 example, speaking of banks, I'll just turn around. The $100 example, the only way that the first person can pay back that $110 is if he takes out another loan to cover that extra interest, or if he gets the money through the public system somehow from another loan that was put into the public system by a second person. So let's say, for example, that the second person gets out a $100 loan and he also owes 110. So the first person has to give 110, and then, but they manage to make some more money. You know, they have a higher salary or a better job, or whatever it may be, okay, or they do business. So they can take the second person's, you know, they can make $10 out of the system. Then they can pay it back. But then the first person, they can't. The second person, sorry, they can't pay their loan, so they default. And what happens in that situation? In that situation, that means that the bank gets the home, they get the car, they get whatever was the collateral up from the loan. You know, the actual thing that has actual value, like a home, intrinsic value, like these apartments over here. Yes, it's stuff that people can use, these bikes, these cars, a business, whatever it may be, okay? Not paper, or not even paper, not digital binary, just bits of information. So that's the first craziest thing, is that money is just debt. It's just debt, and every single piece of penny of money in existence is debt to the bank. It's absolutely insane, because I thought we owned the banks as the people, as the government, but apparently we don't. That's the problem. The other thing that is absolutely crazy as well, this is a famous quote. One of the guys said, I can't remember exactly who it was, but a famous economist said, the way that the banking system works is so simple that the mind rejects it. Okay, how is money created? Money is created whenever a loan is given, and that is it. That is it. Now, some money is minted, as in is printed, like through the what do you call it, the mint. You know, they create the coins and they create the paper, but that only makes up around 2 or 3% of all the money that's in existence. The 98, 97% of money that is in existence is just digital money, as in loans on the ledgers in the banks in digital format. So 98% is absolutely nothing. It's just digits, and it is created by banks whenever somebody gets a loan. Or I don't know if it's like the small banks. Like if I go to a bank and I ask for a loan of £100,000, do they create? Does that money then get printed into? Does that money then get brought into existence, or does it have to be the government that goes to the central banks and then it gets created? I don't know exactly, but when money is created, it's created out of nothing, absolutely nothing. There is no gold attached to it anymore since 1971, since I think it was Nixon took US off the gold standard, and other countries went off the gold standard as well. But there is no attachment of money to anything real, anything of solid value, like, you know, these buildings or whatever. It's just absolutely fabricated when somebody takes out a loan, which is the craziest thing. So it's mad, okay? If I get a loan out from a bank to buy a house, I need some kind of collateral, or a loan in whatever case, okay, like I get a loan out, there's got to be some kind of collateral. If I fail to pay the loan, I lose something, of course, yeah, because the bank needs to cover its, cover its ass in that situation. But the bank didn't take any risk in creating that money. Let's say the central bank gives money to the government of $1 billion again. Okay, so here's your $1 billion. I type it on the computer, and I then give that to the government to put into the public system so that, currency flows and people can spend and make salaries or whatever. Okay, what risk has the bank taken? They've taken no risk. Sorry, the Fed or the Bank of England, they've taken no risk whatsoever in typing that number into their computer. But if we can't pay back the loan, which we can't ever because it's impossible, then we lose things of actual intrinsic value. Property, land, oil, businesses, whatever it may be. Actual things that do service the economy and service the service people in general. So it's mad. That's the second craziest thing. How is money created? It's just created out of thin air, but there's no risk. Imagine if you asked me for $1,000, okay, and I say, okay, well, what if you can't pay it back? And you say, well, if I can't pay you $1,000 back on time with interest, you can take my car, okay? I say, fine. But then what I do, because I'm the bank or whatever, I can just write down on a piece of paper 1,000 and then give you that piece of paper. And that's the $1,000. Let's say I could do that. Okay, so what risk have I taken? On my side, what risk is there? I just wrote $1,000 on a piece of paper and gave it to you. But if you cannot pay me back, I take your car, which has actual value. So there is a real risk for you. So it's just insane the way that money works. And it hasn't always been this way. From what I understand, this all started in kind of 1913 was from what I understand, it started back when there was the first national bank of America. I think the Bank of England have been doing this for years anyway, this sort of money as debt system. And they also, central banks, i.e. the Federal Reserve in America and the Bank of England, are private organizations, not government organizations, who have the power to control how much money is in the system. They literally can inflate or deflate the currency, which leads to then booms and busts. Yeah, they can literally put countries into depression. Now, maybe they are responsible, but I don't think they are. It should be a people's government thing, okay? But I think the big turnaround for America was in 1913 when the Federal Reserve Act was made legal. And from what I understand, that gave the Federal Reserve the right to control how much money was put into the American economy. They controlled absolutely all of the money that was printed. If I go out and try and print my own money, it's counterfeit and I'll get thrown in jail. But if they do it, it's legal, it doesn't matter. Now, of course, it's not a very good argument that, because there has to be some kind of governed system or a responsible system to the people that controls how much money goes into their economy. But it's a private organization that's out to make profit or out to make things of actual value, because they don't need money. Their money is not required. If you can print money out of nothing into existence just digitally, then why would you need money? It's nothing. So it's a private organization, and recently I also, I believe the Bank of England is also a private organization as well. So it's not a government-controlled organization. They're completely, they're not separate from the government, but they have their own corporate interests and profit is the main goal. So it's not for the people, controlled by the people or anything like that. And so that's the problem. One of the reasons why inflation happens is because there's more and more money pumped into the economy every single year in order to cover the debts that were paid originally, but that new money that's pumped in also has interest as well, which can never, ever, ever be paid because it's impossible. It's just mathematically impossible. You can't pay a debt bigger than what you actually have to pay with. You know, there's not enough money to pay the debt. And that's why the purchasing power of money has gone down over the years. Purchasing power of money goes down when more and more money is pumped into the system. That's what inflation is. From what I understand, I'm not an economist, guys. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of comments about I'm talking bullshit in some cases, but some of my points I believe are true. But that's what inflation is. That's why it costs, you know, like I don't know, £20,000 to buy a house in the 1950s in England, or £30,000, but now it costs £200,000. And since the debt is getting higher and higher, that's why everything has to be taxed so much more as well, just so much more. I also believe that I can't remember which war it was. I'm terrible with history, guys. I'm sorry, but the War of Independence in America, I think it was, Abraham Lincoln had put into the system the greenbacks, which was a currency created by an American bank, I believe, or by the government, which had no debt attached to it. There was no debt on the money. It was just the country's money with no debt. And that was extremely successful. And one of the conspiracy theories is that was actually why he was assassinated, was because of the greenbacks, because he put those into the system. And then I believe soon after his assassination, the greenbacks were taken out of circulation and replaced with money that actually was debt. Because if you control the debt, you control everything, basically. Because everything relies on money, everything relies on a currency flowing through the system, flowing through the economy. And if you control the debt, then you basically control everything. So that is why, from what I understand, banks are so adamant. The central banks, which are corporations, not publicly owned, they are so adamant on controlling the money supply in the system. Because when you control the money supply, when you can basically pump more in or take money out of the system by increasing interest rates, and not giving out loans, refusing to give loans into the new system, then people default on their loans. And when they default on their loans, that means that they have to fork over their house, their car, or whatever it may be, whatever the collateral was in the initial loan. So anyway, I just wanted to share that, guys, because I think it was an important message. I'll put some links in the description to some of the documentaries that I've seen. They explain it far more than me. I'm not very articulate when it comes to this stuff. I'm not very articulate in general anyway, but they can explain it far better than I can. And I'm not an economist, of course, so I've probably made a bunch of mistakes in what I've said, but I believe the basics of what I said are true. That all money in the world is debt controlled by central banks, which are in fact corporations. They are not publicly owned, government-controlled organizations. And money is created out of thin air, absolutely nothing, whenever somebody makes a loan. And it might be that when the government makes a loan, it's created out of thin air, and the taxpayer is the one that has to take the heat when more money has to be paid back as debt. So that's why inflation goes up and up and up as more money comes into the system. So let me know what you think about this video. Anyway, guys, I think it's a very interesting subject. I think it's extremely interesting because it affects every part of our lives. Money is something that I constantly think about all the time, for better or for worse, probably for worse. And I think a lot of people do. It affects so much of us, so much of our thinking 24/7. But it'd be great to hear what your opinions are anyway. Anyway, I'm going to pop over there, get some bread. I'm going to make some food shortly. And I'll leave you with this image of the ICBC Bank in China.